Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we will be taking you on a cinematic journey of the senses. To start, we have our film in question, which we shall address and name shortly. We then will proceed into explaining who has brought forth this art, in terms of director, talent, and so forth. From there, we shall then examine the film as a whole regarding its overall quality, objectively speaking, as well as personal enjoyment from yours truly. I do hope you will stick around at least for 2 or 3 minutes until you get bored and click away because the sound of my voice might be a little bit nasally and regrettable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the movie review.
Get out of my way.
It's all part of the menu.
It's okay.
No, we're gonna die tonight.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, tonight we have the menu. So, first trailer came out for this. I was excited from the word go. Everybody basically saw the trailer. If Gordon Ramsay had a kitchen and he just started killing people, right? Like, this has got to be like a Hell's Kitchen horror film. Yes and no. Luckily, there's more layers to it. This wasn't quite the film I thought I was going into, and that's actually really good, and I'll get into that in a moment. First and foremost, this film is directed by this fella right here, Mark Mylod. What has he done? Funny enough, alright, so while this appears to be his cinematic directorial debut, he's been directing TV series or episodes of TV series for a while. He's responsible for a lot of episodes from a show that I've been told is one of the best shows I'm not watching yet, Succession. I keep hearing fantastic things. I need to watch it. I know. And additionally, he's even directed a few episodes of Game of Thrones. And he's even directed some episodes of Shameless. So add it to the list of... He's worked on good series. Star power, honestly, there's a lot of big names in this movie. But without a doubt, we have our two leads. At least these were the two leads to me anyway. Whenever I think of her, my heart starts to flutter. But the girlfriend I'll never have, Anya Taylor-Joy, who, by the way, is like the same age as me. So I'm just like... I'm punching the air immediately, in my eyes anyway. If she's in it, it's gonna be good. I can't think of a bad film, like an outright bad film that I've seen that she was the star of, or even in some respect. She typically picks them pretty well. Opposite her, I don't want to really say antagonist per se, but the other lead, let's go with that. Not Nicholas Hoult, but I was gonna say Ralph Fiennes. I always fuck up his last name, but funny enough, most of the public always knows him as, this is the guy that brought us Voldemort. So, yeah, he was Lord Voldemort, but I prefer to think of him for his more, I don't want to say respectable roles, but like, I just, when I think of him, I think of like Grand Budapest Hotel. So they're the two leads for sure. I don't want to disparage anybody else's work. I think every person involved in this film, like from an acting standpoint, they'll play their characters very well. You might recognize some of the faces. I know that I did. Everybody, the whole cast, bravo. I don't think there's any weak performances to speak of. So props all around. But of course, our two leads. Technically, if you want to throw Nicholas Hoult in there as the other, like, third, sure, you can put him in there on a pedestal if you want. But for me, it's Anya and Ralph. They're the main characters of this particular story. And boy, what a story. Literally, the menu is this. Like, this gal, Anya, she's going on a date with this guy. The date is... we and a select group of people are going on this very exclusive, expensive, take a boat to an island and have this full, like, narrative dinner experience. I say narrative because all the food dishes have like have a meaning, have an overarching theme. You don't just order a dish and eat it. More of a commentary on modern food society. Plot twist though, violence starts ensuing in the course of the evening, and as guests in said restaurant then try to leave, it is revealed, oh, nobody's going anywhere. This is all part of the plan, part of the menu, and then the night of basically what seems to be survival horror then ensues. It's a great trailer. It looked like very dark, funny, violent, and I was like, okay, well, we're probably gonna see a bunch of people get like butchered. Maybe there's gonna be like a cannibal thing to it, like they're gonna be cut up and put into what's being served. I don't know, but I was like, look, I'm sold, I'm hooked. let's get into it. I actually really enjoyed this film. I think I loved it. It was one of my favorites of the year for sure. I was hoping that at the very least it would be good, and they delivered on that and then some. Cinematography, it's funny because there's moments throughout the film where it's like you're watching an episode of the Food Network. They don't get overzealous with it, but there's moments where if a dish is being presented, it's given its own like quick video of it with a title and what's involved, like a breakdown of it, like you'd see on one of those food competition shows, right? It just, I don't know, a little thing that I thought it was funny. It works to great effect in the film. This movie is actually less horror and more of a what I think is a hilarious dark comedy, but it's also like a commentary on both aspects of society, food service, like service industry, like the state of the culinary scene in general. I was actually going to bring this up because it's funny. This film has a lot of similarities to in parts, this film has a lot of similarities to Ratatouille for reasons that if you watch the film will become very apparent, but it's almost painting a journey in a way, like as I've grown up, or as we all grow up, right? If you're around my age bracket, we grow up and we start with Ratatouille. We get older, perhaps we graduate here to the menu, and then eventually we get to Pig. Because there's also a lot of things that are said in this film are also said and spoken to from a movie that I loved from the other year with Nicolas Cage that a lot of you guys and gals slept on, by the way, but that's kind of the journey, both cinematically and culinarily. The menu actually works really well with what it sets forward to do. When they could have butchered the ending, pun intended, they could have really messed up the ending, and miraculously they didn't. It's fitting. It worked so well. The whole journey from start to first act, second act, third act, like the whole thing, there's follow through on everything. All the ends are tied up. Everything makes sense. Maybe you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, but I think that given the characters, given the situation, the narrative, thematically, it was really funny. This movie is very funny in a lot of parts. Granted, comedy is subjective, I know, but I think arguably this film is very funny. Is there violence? Yes, there's blood, and I think you could say there's mild gore. I think the R is mostly just for strong blood. Definitely is like good amount of strong violence and definitely
Profanity.
I don't really have much in the way of negative complaints about it either. I mean, the soundtrack was good. It kept some tense moments tense. Nothing, no great composer did this. Nothing to write home about. The focus is about the characters, the narrative, and the themes that are being that are being tackled, basically. The only possible negative comment I can say is that in moments, its messaging might feel a little preachy. Their message is that this isn't the first time people have talked about this. Like I said, I mean, like, it's addressed in Ratatouille, it's addressed in Pig, and that's just naming 2 films out of what's honestly dozens. But yeah, that's the only thing I can even come close to as a, like, remote complaint, is just maybe some of the themes that are tackled are done so a little bit too on the nose, but that's barely even that's a thing, and I'm gonna acknowledge it, but overall, I actually really recommend this movie. Thinking about my experience from start to finish, I was laughing a lot, I was just kind of cracking up, there were a lot of great scenes between Anya and Ralph. I liked it. I really enjoyed the movie. I loved it overall. The more that I think about it, I would love to see it again. I love to show friends this film as a film, like just in general as a quality. I think from an unbiased perspective, I think it's well directed, written, shot, acted. It's just well done. There's a story. It successfully tells that story. It hits these themes really well on a number of different reasons, takes inspiration from other films, kind of does its own thing with it. I think it's close to perfection. I think really the only complaint I have is that thematically sometimes it can be a little bit on the nose, but that's hardly a complaint. I think the menu overall is worth, in my opinion, barely a low 5 out of 5. I rarely give a low 5 out of 5, but I gotta say, I don't really have, it's great. I loved it. The menu's really good. I was worried that it was gonna be like kind of cheesy, like schlocky, like, oh, we're chopping him up and throwing him in. But no, there was actually something the movie was saying, and it was all taken just seriously enough, and the comedy was played so seriously and well. It's just a very entertaining, very good, dark comedy thriller. It's good. Go see The Menu. See it in theaters. I'm probably gonna go see it again. If you're not a fan of anything I just described, you can skip it. But honestly, like it looks like it's marketed as a horror film, like a dark comedy horror. There's horrific elements to it, but really it's just more of a dark comedy thriller. That's what I think about The Menu. Thank you to Regal for it's an early access showing, but if it's the Wednesday, like, the movie comes out, it always says, oh, movies come out on Fridays, but if you go to movies like I do, really movies premiere on the Thursday night before that Friday. So I don't say why they say in theaters everywhere this day, because no, it's Thursdays. But then you have like something else, oh, this is a Regal Crown Club early access showing, but it's a Wednesday, so it's like one day early, which I would barely qualify that as an early showing. Now, they have done early showings for Crown Club members where it's like a week, 2 weeks. That shit's the special stuff where you're like, oh, you can come see this movie and it's gonna be like actually early. That's dope. It's good for viewers like me that have no clout and no money, because then I can go see a movie early. And I've looked, statistically speaking, the movies that I reviewed before their actual release date get more views than the other ones. So if I continue to have early access, that might be a little bit of an edge, who knows. But thank you to Regal for the early. When you'll see this, the movie's coming out tonight, I guess, but I got to see it yesterday from when you're seeing this, so thanks, I guess. But that's all I gotta say about The Menu. Go watch it. It's really good. I think it actually might crack my top 10 for the year. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next movie review that I do. And goodbye, travelers.